Shotty V, Shotty V, Shotty V.
Welcome to the Morning Cup of Culture Show. I'm your host, Brooke Black. This is a community we're building with inclusiveness, diversity, and belonging through social justice, culture, and music. Today, we're actually going to change lanes a little bit. We're going to focus on the topic for October, which is anti-bullying. I think it's important that we focus the conversation on awareness as well as getting to know someone who is definitely the forefront of this movement. As far as like ending hate and changing perceptions and changing the narrative. Today I'm with Jasmine Orsted. Orsted, take it away, my love.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity, just to come on your platform and share my story. So my name is Jasmine Orsted. I am first and foremost a basketball lover. I'm a basketball player. It's my heart. It's always been a part of me, and that's what brought me into the world of trying to be an anti-bully advocate and, see things, change things, whatever I can do in different spaces. But where my story began was I went to a junior college and I went there so I could stay near my parents. And I set about 10 school records. And then I also was on the dean's list and the president's list academically. And I was MVP of the basketball team. And my dream was to go overseas and play ball. And I knew that I didn't want to go Division I or Division II because there's a lot of good people those divisions. My thought process was, okay, I'll go D3 and then I can be a big fish in a little pond. And then I talk to the overseas coach, they see all my stats, okay, come join my team. So I researched all the Division IIIs nearby and I found the University of Mary Washington. And so I compared my stats to some of the girls coming back, and there were some girls coming back that only scored 2 points the entire season. And my average was 13 points a game and 9 rebounds. So I was like, okay, I'll do well here. I was very confident. And I had played in the summer league with the girls too. So I saw, firsthand, I think I'll do well here. And it's only about 30-40 minutes from my parents' house. So I can stay home. I'm an only child, they can kind of come to all my games and support me. So I was like, this is perfect. But from day one of a preseason, the coach told me all I had to do was get through 2 months of preseason, then I'd be allowed to try out. The other players started making racial comments and racial jokes. So, again, the first day, 2 of the white girls came in and they said that one asked, why do Black people name their kids the way they do? Mm-hmm. And another one said, well, I don't know. My high school wasn't in the ghetto, so we never had to deal with that. We only ever had 1 or 2, and that's the way I like it. And so that was day one. And, in my head,
that's right. In the locker room, like first impression.
Oh, yeah, we were on the court. We were like stretching. And so when 2 of the other ones came to join the group in stretching, it was like the first thing I hear, and I'm like,
So wait. Let's pause for a second. So the setting is you guys are warming up basically for class. You're about to do training or,
right,
first impressions or.
Right. So we're just like, in a big circle, doing the arm stretches, leg stretches, all that. And then
at this point, had you met any of them? At this point, had you met any of them?
Yeah, we met each other, but not like,
not
full on conversation. Right. Like we had to do.
So they're aware that you're their teammate. They're aware that you're there to participate and move in one direction as a team, correct?
Right. At that point, we were all in a group meet, like text message thing. So, they knew who I was, and like we had to do introductions. So, they knew that I was like, oh, I played with you guys. Well, I played against you guys in the summer league. So they knew, this is supposed to be like a family type environment.
Right. It's school.
That's how I think. Right.
Okay. But I'm just trying to get my head around. I'm trying to get my head around their psychology of this conversation isn't appropriate on any level, right? It's very toxic. Right. It's very. I mean, I can see the curiosity, but the context is completely racist. Like
Right.
there's no undertone. It's racist. Like it's
Right.
inappropriate. It's unprofessional. It's unkind. So, so you're there, you're stretching. She makes the comment about how to name children, you know, those kind of things. Go ahead and continue with what's going on in this warm up session, if you will.
So in my head, I was just so excited to be there, and I'm like, okay, this is an offhand comment, but hopefully it's an offhand comment and, let it go. So it wasn't. It continually got worse and it repeated. So there was another time we had to go around the room and tell things about ourselves. And one of the other white girls, she said her family did missionary work in Haiti, which is a beautiful thing, And another player then said, "So did you get a picture with this skinny, hungry Black boy?" And all the girls fell on the ground laughing except for myself and another Black girl. Because it's just like, how, at that time, I think it would have been when there was an earthquake. How could a child starving ever be perceived as funny? But to them, it was funny. So it was things like that. Then it got
Did
to
anyone
the
ever
point.
speak up to the
No, we
comments, or did
just,
they all just play along?
except for myself and another girl who wasn't allowed to try out, we didn't. And, in the beginning, I guess I thought there was a Black girl returning, that she would say something to them because you are familiar with them. So maybe, I'm just a walk on. They don't know me at this point, but you've played with them for a year or two.
Which you should be most respectful to strangers, because you're just getting
You
to know
should.
someone and polite and
Right. But I
okay.
guess I just thought she would, handle it because these are like, more so your
It's
friends
her
and more
community,
so.
right?
Right. So I just thought she'll do it. But when it got to her in that specific situation, she said, "Hey guys, you trace my last name, it goes to my slave owners." And again, everybody fell on the ground laughing, but that was the type
Because that
of,
was funny.
to them.
I'm sorry. I'm just when I hear situations like this, and being a white woman, like I just and I don't want to plug any movies here, but I just think Mean Girls, like there's this
Yeah.
unspoken tolerance for people who are arrogant and rude and racist, and they're show boasters, they want to be the most important thing in the room and highlight me, and I need all the attention. So whether it's toxic attention or whether it's, athletic and being an athlete and, shining in your craft, I think there's the part where I get uncomfortable is that nobody speaks up. Everyone just kind of follows along, whether they know it's
Mhm.
right or wrong, they just kind of follow along. So at what point did you stop following along with the tolerance of how you were being treated? Like when did you speak out?
Well, in my head, I was afraid of saying anything more than, not saying stuff and not laughing at it, because
Right.
I was very afraid of being perceived as the angry Black woman and being like, even though I didn't say anything aggressive and it gets turned into. So in my head, I was just thinking, okay, I'm not going to laugh at it. I'm not going to make, Black jokes, but I'm just going to keep playing really hard. And then when the coach comes along, they're not going to say these things because she's here. And if she knew, she would handle them accordingly.
Right.
Or, she's going to be around, so they're going to be afraid to say it. So in my head, like I just had the tryout date like stuck in my head. Like once October 15th comes, like everything's going to change, because I was very confident I was going to make the team.
Right.
But, there were other hurdles. And once they saw, because it was myself and the other Black girl that we didn't laugh or make jokes, it would be like that awkward silence. Like they look at us to laugh and we're just like, like what's funny. So it came to the point that it was two of the birthdays and they wanted us to pay for alcohol. And I was 20 at the time, underage, and I didn't drink, and like I'm not a drinker now. But I still wanted to be their friend. So instead of going to their party, I got these big birthday cards. I got the coach to sign, I got the girls to sign it, like showing, I still want to be a
Yeah.
friend, because in the beginning, I was naive.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, I thought, if I'm super nice to you, like this is going to be like, remember the Titans, love and
You're
sports is going
still
to
in the
overcome
team
everything.
mindset. You're still with the team hat
Yeah.
on. Like we're one team,
Right.
one team. It doesn't matter the differences, the upbringing, we all put on one jersey, if you will,
Right.
Get
But
it?
then I get it. But
Yeah.
um so I didn't go, but the other girl that I said she didn't make or laugh at the jokes, she was 18, so more impressionable. She thought if she went, they want to be my friend. So she went to the party, she got drunk, and the next Monday the coach called her in and said, well, the girls told me you did underage drinking, so I'm not gonna let you try out. They didn't tell they provided the alcohol.
You feel like
They
it
didn't
was a
tell.
setup?
Oh,
You
for
feel like it was
sure.
a setup?
100%. Because
So they
she
ratted
just
you
so
out, but
well,
you're
they
the one that
ratted
did
her out. I didn't
her
do
out.
it. I
Oh, oh,
didn't show up. But this funny thing with that is, even though I didn't do the drinking, when it got to the point of, a lawsuit and suing them to hold them accountable, I wanted the other girl to join with me because she went through, a lot of this racial incidents, and even more so than I did, because she ended up getting death threats like off of an anonymous. So I can't say, I have no idea who did it.
right.
It was off anonymous social media app called Yik Yak, but she got death threats. She got called the N-word, and she didn't go to class after that, and she flunked out. So when she met with the school said, well, if you want to join with Jasmine, that's fine. Unfortunately, we will have to turn you into the local authorities for your underage drinking. But if you don't, we won't turn you into the cops, and we also will expunge your record so the next college you go to doesn't have to know you flunked out. And they tried to offer that to me, but I didn't flunk out, so it wouldn't have done anything for me. But
Right.
even past that, the
They're
state's attorney of
blackmailing you at
Virginia,
this point.
right? But the state's attorney of Virginia wrote a letter to my lawyer and said, well, it's Jasmine's fault that she didn't drink with the girls. If she would have drank with them, then they would have liked her and wanted her on the team. But when the other person did it, when the other girl did
Whoa.
it, you
Where?
held it
Wait.
against her and used her as blackmail. It's wild,
Wait.
right?
It's so toxic, even from the beginning. Like this. Wait. So peer pressure, right? To do
Right.
something, to tolerate a behavior that maybe, I don't know whether you had or had not drank at this point in your life. Like the fact that they're like, well, she should have drank, and it's like, oh, so she should have broke the law to fit in. Like that's
Right.
toxic number one. Toxic number two, like, wait a minute, we're disputing a racial profiling here. We're disputing racism. We're disputing bullying, like there's a lot of really hot topic sensitive situation, and you're saying to play along. Like
Yeah,
I don't
and
understand
again,
that.
like, even I said the other girl, she didn't do it. She thought, if I go drink with them, they'll be my friend. And she was
Yeah,
the only one that was told, well, because of your drinking, we're not gonna let you try out. And then they did an investigation and they found out the other players did it, yet those girls were still allowed to try out and be on the team. But so it was that, and then another big instance was we had to go around they knew what my ethnicity was because they saw my mom and they saw my dad drop me off. And
well,
my
I
dad
mean,
is blonde
just
hair, blue
looking at you,
eyes.
you're
So
beautiful. I can tell that you're not a Caucasian woman. Like that, either way, like you're gorgeous, you know what I mean? And I think that
thank
our
you.
differences are what make us beautiful and what make us
Thank
unique and
you.
powerful.
Yeah,
And
for
I'm
sure.
sorry, to go back to that, you didn't want to be the angry Black woman. I think that the negative stereotype around that is to make people think that that's not a good thing. Like, be
Yeah, it
strong,
could
be
definitely
the
be a
angry
good
Black
thing.
woman, because
Right.
I could tell that right now is about when you start to speak up. And so yeah, like, sorry to interrupt, I'm just
You're good. And I mean, I definitely agree with you. Like, you have to be that sometimes. You have to stand up and you have whatever form that looks like playing small isn't an option. And what's the quote? Well-behaved women rarely make history. So sometimes you do
right.
have to be that catalyst to change. But I will admit I was afraid to be that because I'm like, if I do that and I'm perceived as that, then it's a reason I can't. So in my head, I was like, being
Yeah.
quiet, nobody can be mad at me for being quiet. But even then, it didn't work out. But so I said that they knew what I was because they saw my dad, because they wanted this specific conversation to come up. They went around the room asking everybody what they are ethnically. And there's
What was the purpose? Were they just trying to get to know people, or were they trying to identify certain things?
in my head, it was to get to this point of making me mad. So they went around the room and other people were like Irish, German, whatever the case may be. And when they got, to the Black girl, I said, make jokes for about herself. She was like, oh, one of my parents are Black and the other one's blurple, like, so they're dark, they're purple. And again, the girls fell on the ground laughing except for me. And so when they got to me, I said, my mom's African American and my dad's Norwegian. And they said, wait, so he's European? And I said, yeah. They said, so he's white. And I said, yeah. So your white daddy had a kid with a Black woman and actually married her? And I said, yeah. And so half of them fell on the ground and the other half looked disgusted. But see,
where's the adult? I mean, you're all adults in the room, so that's kind of, let me pull that back to say, where's the adults in the room? But where's the responsible mentor in the group?
Well,
that,
so for preseason, coaches aren't allowed to be around. So the team leaders, the team captains are supposed to be. They did. I mean, they joined, or they allowed it to happen. They were all in the room. But that situation and the Haiti comment was like the closest I wanted that I got to either saying forget this or just going off, because who are you to, one, make fun of a kid, but two, try to come from my parents when it's like it was 2014, 2015. Interracial marriages are not unheard of. They're not, a blue moon or, whatever. It's not unheard of. But I didn't go off. I just left the room because I knew.
You left the room after the comment?
Yeah, because I knew that.
No, I like that. I appreciate that.
You get to a point where it's like, you, and I am very, docile. I'm very calm. But once you get to that point, you have to separate yourself. Yeah, and I just didn't want them to be able to have the chance to say, one, that, they got me out of who I am, but two, well, she just lost it and went off. So I thought it was better to separate myself. But so because again, in my head,
well, if you're out of control, then it condones their behavior. You know what I mean? Because they're looking for an excuse or a reason to say certain things or to make conversations okay or whatever. I don't try to understand racism because it's not logical to me. Like, you hate someone based on one specific thing or whatever that is. Like, you're prejudiced towards them, or you think differently, whatever racism is to that individual. Like, to have an open conversation, getting to know people, like, there's no leadership qualities in that. There's no mentor. Like, you're in a room full of adults that are on a team that are aspiring to be collegiate level athletes, like, and no one is like seeing the toxicity and like detrimental conversation that's happening. I'm proud of you for walking out of the room, because I think that when you know that what you say is gonna, exasperate or antagonize the situation, to physically use your body as language and remove yourself, I think that even that alone lets people know, like, okay, that's not okay. You can't talk to people that way. You can't treat people that way. So after you left the room, what happened?
Practice continued as normal.
You went and practiced after that?
It's not an option for preseason is mandatory. So if I would have just walked off,
so they wanted you to
it would have
quit,
been.
It seems like.
That's what I believe everything boiled down to. And then it's like when the comments weren't working.
Right.
So then they did the drinking thing and they got rid of one of us, but I didn't do it.
Wow.
So then it was like they did the other things. And that's why I believe that specific conversation came up about ethnicity, because I'm the only, as far as I knew, I was the only mixed person in the room. So I would be the only one offended by, laughing at it and, looking like it's gross. But so, there were a whole bunch of different circumstances that happened, but in my head, I kept thinking.
Let's go back to that moment though. Let's go back to that moment where you left the room. So I'm just out of curiosity, which I probably know the answer to this, but out of curiosity, because I believe that there's some human decency in all people, right? All humans. Did anyone follow you? Did anyone come after you to see if you were okay?
No. No.
Okay, no. So then you go back to track or whatever, you go back to do you guys practice outside? Do you practice inside? Like, where did you go from there?
We were practicing inside.
Inside, okay. And the coach is present. Is there any kind of vibe
happening?
happening?
She wasn't present because it was still preseason. so she couldn't
Oh,
like
so
be
who
that's
controls
why
the drills? I'm so confused. Like,
the
who?
team captains, so like they like returning players or whatever, like they are in charge. And that's why in my head I thought, just let me get to
Yeah,
tryouts because the coach isn't around. But when she's around, one, they're not going to say these things because they're going to be afraid, because I would be afraid to say anything racist about anybody in front of any of my coaches, because I know it's going to be like, you get the boot. But two, if I did make a comment, or whoever made a comment, you're going to be held accountable by the coach. So in my head, like I had made like tryouts like this big, finishing line, like I just got to get here, and then I'm going to be good. But I didn't because 2 weeks before tryouts, the coach called me in and she said, I'm not going to let you try out. And I'm like, huh? And she said, yeah, the other girls told me they don't want you on the team. And I'm like, huh? And she said, yeah.
the
And
other
so I said, well,
girl.
right. And, even in that situation, it's like, you're the coach. You're the one that's supposed to decide. That's like saying if somebody comes interviewing for my position, I'm not going to say, yeah, they deserve the job more than I do. Of course you would
Right.
say. So that's why coaches exist. But she
Mhm.
told me, and I was like, well, maybe because I'm not making nor laughing at the Black jokes and I'm not doing underage drinking. And she told me, good, bad, or otherwise, right, wrong, or otherwise, I'm going to go with the other girls and not let you try out. And I've had a variety of girls over the years, so I don't believe anything you're saying. And so
So wait,
after the fact,
pause for a second. You're finally speaking up for yourself. You're finally being the advocate for, anti-bullying, anti-racism, just how about camaraderie, right? Just basic camaraderie in a team setting. And the coach is like, the coach doesn't care?
well, yeah, she said, good, bad, or otherwise, right, wrong, or
Wow.
otherwise. I'm gonna go with them. And she told me she didn't believe me because she had a variety of girls over the years. And I ended up sneaking back on campus, to verify that. And I found over the course of 12 years, she only ever had 2 Black girls play for her. And she told me that was a variety. And,
Well, I mean, there's so many other ethnicities, that are probably interested in basketball, Asian,
yeah, right,
Polynesian,
right.
Turkish, like whatever, like, but I hate that I'm shocked because at some point in the hierarchy in our education system, I feel like there needs to be an advocate and an unbiased hat that every counselor, teacher, assistant, office worker needs to wear, every day, to include all students, to include all faculty and staff. And that's it's sad that it's still tolerated at that level. Do you feel like, and this is just opinion based, so you could pass on the question, but do you feel like maybe the coach is setting the tone for the team?
Um, well, I will say that the girl that I referenced that said, her high school wasn't in the ghetto, and she made the comment about Haiti. She's an assistant coach there now. So, I'll say that it is what it is.
Was this your first experience with bullying and racism?
It was my first experience with bullying racism, not bullying as a whole, because I've seen, this has, nothing to do with anything. But I remember when I was in high school, there was a kid that was reading manga, like anime
Mhm.
stuff. And like some kids threw food at him. And I remember like in that instance, myself and my other friends, like we stood up to them and we told them, okay, like one, you're not doing this anymore. But two, we're turning you into the school, because I believe the boy was autistic as well. So even if he wasn't autistic, you shouldn't do that. But more so knowing that, just leave somebody alone. Like, who cares what, the next person does? So we told, teachers, and then for the rest of the school year, like we went and sat with him and ate with him to make sure, he was fine. But it's just like, that's why I guess I don't understand bullying, because to me, if I don't like what somebody's doing or whatever, I can remove myself. I'm not going to go out of my way
Right.
to be mean to you. Um, but yeah, so it wasn't my first experience with bullying, but just in that situation. And as far as racism, not the first time with that. My mom is from Tennessee. So, I've been in Tennessee a lot. It's you know, it's the South. I love the South for what it means to me, family wise and everything, but I know what it is as well. But I hadn't experienced it with sports because to me, sports was where, again, you know, remember the Titans, everybody comes together for the love of
Right.
the game,
Team.
every background.
Team.
Exactly. Like from
Going.
playing in high school and playing in college, like I played with every background, Asian, African, whatever the case may be, I played with everything. So then to come and you know, something that's been so beautiful and been like, you know, basketball is the love of my life, it gets turned into this ugly, traumatic thing. It was horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to the team setting, what position did you play or what were you trying out for?
So I have played everything but point guard.
Is that
So
what you
even
were
though like I'm
trying out for?
short, no, I was trying out for whatever, you know, two,
Oh, okay.
three,
So you, okay.
4. Yeah, like I'm short, but I'm aggressive. So like I've played post
Got
before,
that defense.
5'4", I get in there. Yeah, you know, I get in there, jump for the ball, box out, rebound, all that. So I played everything but point.
I was
And
just
that was
trying
a
to see
thing
if
too.
there's, well, I was just trying to see if there was like any psychology behind why they would, you know, not to condone the bullying or the racism, but just to see if there was an undertone to like, oh, she wants my spot, so you're not coming for my spot type vibe. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Well,
you
I'll
know,
say the black girls that were there before me and then the ones that were trying out that made it, they were more so fives. So like, you know, just a big man. So with that, they were only gonna be replacing each other on the court. Like the chances that you're gonna have two black girls on the court is gonna be unlikely with them. But with me, again, everything but point. Like I can be, you know, whatever. So that came into play too. Because as far as I knew before I got there under that coach, she had never had a black guard. So that could play into it too. But I guess for me, because I've had like other, you know, people ask me like, well, are you sure that was really racism or was it just like bullying? It was just like mean girl. And I do think that when you get to college athletics, it can get very cutthroat, whether it's girl or boy, whatever, because you're fighting for scholarship money. But in the same hand, I don't
yeah,
understand it because my parents, you know, raised me that if somebody's better at me, you know, be glad they're on the team because now you have
right.
somebody making you better every day. But even
Utilize their
still, if
strengths.
exactly. Like I would hate to just automatically be, you know, well, I don't have anybody that's going to make me better and I wouldn't, you know, be mad at them for that. But even in the same breath, um, I would if I mean I don't again like I don't bully, but if I did, I wouldn't then focus on somebody's race or if I wanted to be a mean girl and like run somebody off to then
Right.
go for something as, you know, deep as race. Yeah, I just think that that was the point of it all. Like they knew it was gonna be a really big trigger for me.
Well, how could it
So
not
that's
be?
why everything ran
It's
about
who
that.
you are. Like,
Right,
you're a black woman in America. Like, it's there.
right,
I mean, I don't know. There's this reality check when you start looking at white privilege from someone who's aware. You know, I'm aware of the white privilege that I have. Maybe not the full extent, but at least I can say it. You know, and not feel good about saying it because it's not something that makes me feel good. Like, but when I come to access and when I come to who has power in this world and this planet, it's, you know, as women, we have, and this is opinion, right? There's, I mean, we could do statistics all day long, but who's going to collect the data? But as women, we have the least power, right? And then you
right,
add this situation is a perfect example of, and I hate women of color, like any woman that's not white, right? She has less power than I do because then there's this racial tone over it that makes it even harder for her. So with that being said, how did you navigate not being able to try out? What happened next? Like what made you decide to continue the conversation and bring awareness to your experience of being bullied and being targeted for racism?